Welcome to what surely will be a doozy of a matchup right here, sports fans. Whether your game is on the gridiron, at the diamond, or on the links, we can only say, get up off your seats and get ready for some real action. Welcome to this week's Huddle Up with Gus. 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerott's passion for sports has taken him on the field and behind the benches, playing for 7 NFL franchises with 114 TDs under his belt. Gus knows who the players are and how the games are won.
It's not every day you get to hang out with an NFL quarterback, huh?
Okay, sports fans, from the decked out and plush 1631 digital studios, it's kickoff time. So snap your chin straps on and get ready to huddle up with Gus.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I'm your host, 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte. I want to thank you for joining us today. You can check us out at huddleupwithgus.com. You can go to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We will be on there. We're on every network, so we appreciate you. We want to thank all of our sponsors today, the Little Blue Pill, Credit Guard, Nutrigenics, 1631 Digital News, always a big plus. Go to 1631 Digital News, check out their sports news, information, entertainment. They do a great job with that. And definitely check out to where our podcast is held at Sounder FM. Go to sounder.fm and check out our podcast along with many, many others. And we appreciate you listening. And please go to our YouTube channel so you can watch the video, not just listen to the show, but now you can watch our shows on our great YouTube channel, Huddle Up with Gus. So I appreciate you listening. And get ready for the show. It's a great one. And today I'm really excited about it because we just saw and went through 4 days of the Masters, and I think everybody was tuned into every single day. We're going to speak with the gentleman now who is, I feel like, is a great ambassador and the face of golf. He does so much for the game of golf, from the young kids in the drive, chip, and putt to being on the Golf Channel. He himself started back in 1980, was on a tour, had 7 tour wins, 2 major championships in the Champions Tour. Joining me today is Peter Jacobsen with an E at the end. So, Peter, how you doing?
I'm good, Gus. Yeah, I get just like you, I get my name misspelled a lot. It's not S-O-N, it's S-E, and I go back to my Norwegian heritage.
Yeah, you know, I'm a mutt, so my name Frerotte is really hard to spell because everybody misses the R at the beginning. So, and then everybody, when I was playing, I had dark black hair and thought I was Italian. So I'm not. I'm Polish and Slovak. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's right. No, it's names being misspelled is kind of a thing of the sports world. When your name's on your jersey or up on a scoreboard and it's misspelled, you can't stop in the middle of your shot and go, hey, change that for me, will you?
Yeah, you know, it's something to be proud of, obviously, your name. But for me, when it happened to me in the Pro Bowl, I was just like, what are you going to do? I'm here. You know, they can't take that away from me.
That's right. That's right.
Now, I'm really excited to talk to you. Obviously, we'll get into a lot of things, but I want to start with your childhood growing up in Oregon and how you fell in love with the game of golf and athletics. Like, I kind of want to know, did you play other sports besides golf when you were a kid?
I did. Probably like you and all these other kids growing up, I played every sport, like football, baseball, basketball. I was a skier. I was a competitive skier when I was a youngster growing up in the great state of Oregon. So, yeah, I was a multi-sport athlete, which I think is important for kids today. I'm sure you see a lot of parents try to specialize in one thing, football, golf, baseball. But I think what that does is it robs the kids of a chance to integrate with other kids their age. And also with respect to golf, when I started playing golf, I played golf with my father and his friends. And I had a chance to play golf when I was in high school with people that were in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. So I think it gave me a pretty good perspective on people and the different ages of people in the world. But yeah, I did everything as a kid.
So you did all these sports, you played everything. How does it come to where you picked golf? Was it just that something that you enjoyed the most, or you felt like you fit in the most, or was it like dad or older brother saying, no, you're going to play golf because you're really good?
Our father taught us all how to play. My mom and my two brothers and sister. He loved it. And he wasn't a teaching pro, but he was a good player. He was always a low single-digit handicap player. So we first started caddying in the city of Portland. That's how we made a little money. Single, maybe even double strap, and we make some cash.
Yeah.
But our father wanted us to learn the game from that aspect, to be able to understand the rules, the regulations, the etiquette, how to play the game, how to tend the flag, replace a divot, fix a ball mark on a green, which has become really the hallmark in my mind of treating the golf course with respect. So I think it was probably high school. I was a pretty good player. I ended up winning the Oregon State High School Championship when I was a senior. Then I was recruited to go to Stanford to play golf there. I had a pretty good GPA, but back then there was no greasing of the skids to get anybody in.
Yeah.
And I didn't get in on my own accord. So I ended up attending the University of Oregon, which was great. Oregon had a great golf history. And I'm so glad I did. I met my current wife 46 years ago. And I have no regrets. I love the fact that I could play golf at the University of Oregon and be a Duck.
Yeah, no, I was listening to a story about you and your wife and how you met. And did you meet at Oregon, or it was something like somebody introduced you and you were giving her lessons in golf?
Yeah, it was her older brother. He was really my hero. His name is Mike Davis. He played on the tour. He played in college. He won a lot of tournaments. So I was taking lessons from him. I idolized him. And one day he said, "Hey, I want you to come out and I'm giving my sister a lesson." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I went out, and he was matchmaker. He all of a sudden came down with another lesson. So he sent me out to give my future wife a bunker lesson, and we clicked, and that was it. That was her freshman, a little before her freshman year. And we were married 4 years later.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like my story. My father-in-law was my high school football coach, and my wife, Ann, lived with her mom. So they were divorced when she was little. And he called me up when I came home from college one year and said, "Hey, I'm going to my camp to get ready for my 50th birthday. Do you want to come help me?" And I always went out there to go fishing and things in the stream. And I said, "Sure, pick me up." And he picked me up, and she was in the middle of the truck in the front bench seat. And from that point on, I never let her go. We've been going out ever since, been together 32 years. So it's crazy how those things work out.
You don't expect it. I wasn't expecting to go to the golf course to give a lesson to my mentor's sister. In fact, that was the last thing I wanted to do, but turned out to be one of the best things I ever did.
Right. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I hear you there. So you go to Oregon. I know you won the Pac-8 at that time at Oregon. Yeah. Now it's a Pac-12. It continues to grow because everybody wants to win a national championship, so they have to be in a big conference. But what was it like back then? Because, I'm thinking back in the 70s when you were in college, what was travel like? And I mean, there was no internet to watch your opponents or see what course you were going to play. Like now you can get before you go to a course, you can get a whole like overhead view of it. There's probably a drone flying over the course you can watch somewhere. What was that like for you back then?
It was totally a new world. You're right. There was no internet. When we put together our schedule, we had a chance to go. We played a lot of local events in the Northwest because we had no money. We hardly had a travel budget. But we always had one or two big trips a year. And I remember our one big trip was down to Houston to the National Intercollegiate in Houston. Right. And that was the greatest because we could play against the best teams in the country. That was when we had a chance to see Ben Crenshaw and Gary Koch, Bill Kratzert, Curtis Strange, Andy Bean, the guys of my era. And we all wanted to know how our games stacked up against them because we didn't travel. Oregon, even though it's a big D1 school, Phil Knight was still a young man. Right. And Phil Knight, there was no Nike backing back then. In fact, when I caddied with my dad, Phil Knight was my dad's best friend. So Bill, Mr. Knight, and my dad played a lot of golf, and he used to talk about his crazy kid, Phil, has a master's degree and a marketing degree from Stanford and Oregon. And all he wanted to do was make these damn shoes. Well, it worked out pretty well in the long run for Phil and Nike.
Yeah.
But it was totally an unknown for us. And we drove. We didn't fly. We drove from Oregon, Eugene, to Houston, and we played against the best teams in the country. And that was a real eye-opening experience to be able to play against these schools where in the summers they played these amateur schedules. I didn't do that. I didn't have the money to do that. I didn't have the opportunity to fly there. So really playing in college was a huge eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, I'm sure Oregon or many golf programs didn't have a big budget back then. You know, they weren't buying 10 plane tickets for the golfers to go fly somewhere.
I didn't understand that, but I do now because those are non-revenue sports.
Yeah.
Whether it's swimming, track and field, or not track and field, swimming, golf, tennis, those are sports that you don't make any money. The money makers are obviously college football and college basketball. So I understand the budgets now more than ever, and that's why I'm so happy to be working with the University of Oregon golf team, Casey Martin, their golf coach, and the AD on raising as much money as we can every year for the golf team because non-revenue sports need it.
Yeah, well, it's hard to put butts in the seats, right? There aren't really any seats in college golf, really. You know, where's the revenue come from?
There's very few home games, as you know, in golf, unless you host your own event in Eugene or no matter which school you are, unless you host your own event, you're on the road at somebody else's tournament.
Yeah, no, I think that's just awesome that you do that for your school because I think that program, you know, all programs like that need a lot of help. And with somebody from kind of your background and everything that you've done for the game, I'm sure those kids love seeing you come into the program and can ask you a ton of questions. Because if you think back to when you were probably a junior, senior in college, who did you get to ask those questions to? You know, like, what's my next step? Where do I go next? What do I do next?
Well, at Augusta last week, I was there doing the drive, chip, and putt. And the day before was the Augusta National Women's Amateur. And Oregon had 2 Lady Ducks playing in that. And I had the chance to go out to dinner with one of them and the women's golf coach. And we had a chance. We sat for 2 hours in the legendary T-Bones Steakhouse in Augusta. And anybody that's been there, you've been there, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And we sat there for a couple hours and we talked about Bree's future, where she is in college and where she's going. So you know how important it is to be a mentor. You've done it. I do it to where somebody can ask questions. And you're right. I didn't have that when I was in school. It was totally fly by the seat of your pants.
So who did you talk to? So you come out of college, you say, I'm going to turn pro. And so who was the call to say, what do I need to do now?
I didn't have that call. I didn't have that opportunity. My brother-in-law, Mike Davis, was really the only mentor I had. But I was really lucky when I first got on tour. My first tour event was Pebble Beach, the AT&T, and my first practice round on accident was with Arnold Palmer. How crazy is that? So I ended up, it just like I cut across at Monterey Peninsula on a practice round, and little did I know, but I cut in front of Arnold Palmer, and he so graciously asked me to play with him, and we met, and that started a wonderful relationship I had with Arnold, and as a result, I ended up getting in games with Arnold and Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and Hale Irwin and Tom Watson and all these great players, and I'm a talker, as you can tell. I got a big mouth, but I always know when to stop and listen and learn. And boy, that was masterclass when I first got on tour.
Yeah, I imagine if you're playing with those guys that there's a little nerves, I couldn't imagine, even for me, when I was playing football and I'd go up and play against one of the guys I've always watched my whole career, or like when I started in DC and Sonny Jurgensen was like doing the radio, but he'd come up and talk to you all the time. And you're like, that's Sonny Jurgensen. You know what I mean? Like it's just different. I can imagine what that was like in golf, because golf is all nerves and thinking about the game. And then all of a sudden you're Arnold Palmer standing over you, and how old are you? And he's watching you putt or swing, and you're like, God, am I doing this right? Like, I couldn't imagine what that'd be like.
Well, you're obviously, your career is so great. I thought getting on the tour would be the best thing in the world. You get on the tour and you realize you are at the first rung of the ladder. Yeah. And that ladder could be 50 rungs tall. And I thought, wow, I'm playing in a tournament. And I realized next, I have to make a cut. And then, I need to make some money to keep going. Yeah. And then you need to contend, and then you need to win. And then once you win, you get in the majors, and now it starts all over again. You have to learn how to contend in a major and then win. Just like what Scottie Scheffler did yesterday. His meteoric rise is incredible, where he was a couple of years ago and where he is today. Yeah. And it's really great to see, but that can happen. What we've seen in the NFL, players like Patrick Mahomes and my University of Oregon Duck alum, Justin Herbert. He came out of Oregon and everybody thought, well, he's going to take him a few years. Boom. Look what's happened is, the quarterback position is probably the hardest to understand and the most difficult to master. You did it. Mahomes is doing it. Herbert's doing it. Joe Burrow's doing it. But on tour, to come out and win early, like we saw Tiger Woods do and dominate. Nicklaus did it. Crenshaw did it. And now Scottie Scheffler. It's these guys are pretty impressive to do it that quickly.
Yeah, I think Tiger's got to give you some credit because he stole your caddy, didn't he?
Well, it's a pretty good story. Tiger was out. I've known Tiger since he was about 16, and he was out in Portland playing in the U.S. Amateur at Pumpkin Ridge. And we hung out a little bit. And when he won the tournament, he needed a caddy. So his agent was my agent. Butch Harmon was his coach. Good friend of mine. And so it all worked out that Fluff went to work for Tiger. And when Fluff asked me about it, I said, Mike, I would never stand in the way of anybody having the chance to go play with and work for potentially the greatest player in the game. And boom, right out of the blocks, they won the Masters in record fashion. And then as we've seen Tiger's career, he's certainly of this era, of this generation, he's the greatest player by far. A lot of people say Jack played the best golf, Tiger plays the best golf, but quite honestly, Gus, it's two eras. It's two different games. With the technology changes, I look at my dad played college football for Oregon and he played professionally. He was a center. Yeah. He snapped the ball back to you. And that was before they had the face guards. They just had the leather helmets.
He's probably like 240 pounds, maybe.
If that. He played center. He was probably 210. His nose was broken so many times. He had swallowed his tongue a couple of times. But when they came in with the face guards, he said, totally different game. Back then, they had to play off the line a little bit. So kind of like with Jack and Tiger, the technology has changed so much that it's a different game. But back to Fluff, yeah, I was so proud and so happy. And Mike still to this day remains my best friend in the game of golf. We talk all the time and we have so much fun together.
So I watched a video with you and Faraday going to like a dinosaur place down in, I think it was Florida. And Faraday pulls up this, I don't know, it looked like a little broom thing, but it looked like a mustache. And he said, hey, who is that? And you're like, oh, that's Fluff. And he did an impersonation of Fluff, which I thought was pretty funny. So he has a distinct voice.
Yeah, well, Fluff started out with a big bushy beard and it was dark because he was younger. Right. Then as he got older, the beard shortened up and now it's a mustache And as he's gotten older, it was gray, but now there's all the colors in the rainbow in that mustache, and it's so thick that it almost looks like a whisk broom taped to his upper lip, and it hangs down. It looks like almost like a little bit of a walrus. So, but yeah.
Well, it's amazing when you see people that can do that, right? Like I have a really good friend out of Chicago, Delbert, and he has just the most amazing mustache. But then you see people that try to grow a mustache, you're like, that just doesn't work for you. But people like Fluff, and they just can do it. They can pull it off.
Well, I was watching the tournament yesterday with Scotty Scheffler and Cameron Smith, this young player from Australia. He's a great player. I study his golf swing. I study his putting stroke. He's great. But as you've seen, it doesn't look like he's shaved since he was 12. Yeah. And I don't know, he's mid-20s, upper 20s. I think at this point, you might have to give it a fail and say, okay, dude, you're not able to grow a mustache or a beard. Just work on the mullet. Let's get yourself clean shaven.
Yeah, he's probably like, this is how we do it in Australia. And we're like, well, you're not in Australia. You better shave that thing off.
Yeah, the mullet's good. He's got a healthy mullet going.
He does. And he wears that flat bill hat. And it was just an amazing tournament. One of the most exciting Masters, I think, for a lot. Obviously, when Tiger's there, it just changes the whole realm. And just the first day, even the practice rounds, to see the people out watching them after we went through this crazy pandemic, I think it just kind of made everybody feel like we're back.
Tiger playing, I bet a lot of people that he wouldn't play after we had that rain. We had some torrential rain on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
And as you know, it's a hilly golf course. You can't really get the perspective on TV, but the elevation change is dramatic. So, walking the hills is difficult. But when it's wet, like we had on Tuesday and Wednesday, I think we had 3 inches of rain. Yeah. I thought there's no way. It's going to be too much pressure on his leg. It's like walking in dry sand versus wet sand.
Oh, easy.
But he played, blew me away. He played well enough to make the cut, continued to blow me away. And I think he just ran out of gas on the weekend, but truly a remarkable athlete. His perseverance and his determination is off the charts. I've always admired Tiger because you know as well as I do that when you're in the press room and you get a lot of questions and you get a lot of stupid questions, nobody handles stupid questions better than Tiger Woods. He gets questions. He might get the same question asked 4 different ways, but he takes his time. He answers the question. He looks at the reporter. And I've always admired that about Tiger. He's such a professional. And I think a lot of young athletes today could learn a lot from watching Tiger, how he handles himself, what he's gone through, and where he's going in his career. It's extremely impressive.
Well, in the game of golf, you can't really hide. It's you, and that's it, right? In football and other sports, you have teammates, and sometimes you can like push it off or do other things when they ask you questions. But in the game of golf, it's just you, and that's got to be tough, and that's got to be a learning experience that you go through. Because I'm sure that when Tiger started out, he had to learn some ways to talk to the press and the media. And I'm sure after a year, after the thousands of interviews he went through, it got a little easier.
Well, I've always called team sports, and I played team sports. I always call them eraser sports because Tom Brady can throw a bad pass and Mike Evans can lay out and make a great catch and it's touchdown. And they go, wow, Brady's got another touchdown. Well, that should go to Mike Evans because he made a great play. With Tiger, and he learned this early on because he was a dominant junior and a dominant amateur. And the great thing about golf is that as you come up through the ranks, college, junior, college, amateur, and then pros, you really learn along the way because you're giving interviews. Tiger was giving interviews when he was 3 or 4 years old, when he was on the Merv Griffin show. And when he was out here when he was in Portland at 13, winning his first U.S. junior, and then when he won the U.S. amateur, he's always handled himself with class. Always has done that, and that's why I admire him. He's a remarkable kid.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. So I want to get back to you a little bit. Now, you come onto the tour. Obviously, you're doing, like you're meeting some incredible golfers. And sometimes, like you said, you like to talk a lot. So that personality has to come out. And I feel like you're also a little bit of a jokester and a prankster. And like, I feel like you've done some of that stuff in the locker room. So how long before your real personality came out on tour?
Funny you should bring that up. When I came out on tour, I really thought I had to be serious, like a Ben Hogan or a Tiger or any of these people that you see between the ropes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you experienced that on the football field, but some people change their persona and they focus like, okay, it's go time. I was doing that until I spent some time with Lee Trevino. And you know as well as I do, Lee Trevino is funny. He's joking. When you go on the range with Trevino, you know he's there because he's talking. He might be before an hour before a round. He hits 10 minutes of balls, but BS is for the other 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So I kind of did that until I got on the golf course. And Trevino said to me, look, you can't be different the way you are off the course and the way you are on the course. So it really helped me so much to just be me on the golf course. I like to joke. I like to talk to people. Talking to people relaxes me. And in fact, I remember one story. I had a chance to win the U.S. Senior Open when I was 50. And I was tied with Irwin, Haas, and Kite. And I was really nervous on the 16th hole, the 69th hole of the day. What would that be? 70th hole of the day. And I hit a shot on the green, but I was nervous. So I made a beeline to the gallery and I started talking to a stranger. Yeah. I just started talking to them about the logo on their shirt or the logo on their hat or how sweaty it was or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but that relaxed me. So I always have a tip of the cap and thank Trevino for helping me become me inside the ropes, because trying to change it's too much of a mental strain.
Yeah, that was kind of me. I had a bunch of in football, you got all these coaches and they're always trying to tell you what to do and who you should be. And I was a prankster in the locker room. I love pulling jokes on guys. And I always felt like trying to get guys to laugh and be together was a good way to bring your team together. And I enjoyed doing that, whether I was a starter or the backup. But then, like, if you go out in the field and you try to have that same personality, the coaches are like, he's not serious. He doesn't want, what I mean? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm as competitive as they come. That's my personality. And I love that you figured that out and you went out and you did it, because that's who you are. And that's how all sports should be. You can focus when it's time. Like, you weren't laughing or joking when you were making the putt, but talking to that person took all that off your mind a little bit. And that's how I was. I come on the sideline and everybody thinks you're serious. What happened the last series? Yeah, I'd look at it, but then I'd go make a joke with the lineman and like try to, do things like that.
Well, Trevino said to me how to get deeper into this. Trevino said, look, it takes 1 minute to hit a shot. You walk up to your caddy. He's got the yardage, the bag's by the ball. And he says, you've got 150 to the front, 20 to the pin, 170. We don't want to go long. There's a big, deep bunker or water. So play short of that. Let's miss short. So if it's either it's a hard 8 or an easy 7, we'll talk about it. I pull the club over the ball. I'm serious. The minute the ball leaves and the club goes back into the bag, I'm back to being me. I'll turn. I'll give you some crap. I'll give my caddy crap. I'll make a joke with somebody in the crowd. I remember one year at the Western Open at Chicago, I had played with Bill Murray in the shootout. They always have a shootout on a Wednesday. And I remember Bill walked with me during the round, and we would kibitz during the day. I'd hit my shot, go over, talk to Bill. And if you ever watch a player like Bill Murray or somebody who plays at an AT&T, they're always joking, yes, but not when the player's hitting the shot. It just takes that 1 minute of focus. When you're calling a play, you're under center, you call the play, and you throw your go route, and then you get a touchdown. You come back to the sideline, and you're joking and giving guys crap. But when it's time you get the ball back on a fumble, now you're back in it again. So it's in, it's out, it's in, it's out. That's what worked best for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, winning helps a lot easier when you're joking, right? If you're losing and then you're joking, people take it the wrong way, and it's just like, no, that's just who I am. I get it.
Well, to that point, that's a really good point. In golf, confidence and enjoyability is elusive because we lose so much. Yeah. We lose more than we win. Now, yes, Scotty Scheffler's won 4 tournaments in his last 6 or whatever tournaments he's played, but I guarantee you Scotty's going to hit a skid. Golf careers go like this. Tiger, Jack, Scheffler, me, it doesn't matter. You just don't want your lows too low, but you have to manufacture sometimes that confidence. And I think you do it through humor, you do it through relaxation, and you do it through the camaraderie of, hey, I know we're not winning any games right now. Let's go do it. Let's suck it up and do it. And that can't come from coaches. It can, but it's got to come from you.
Have you ever been out there? I mean, you've had like 800 and some starts in your career, which, that's a lot of golf to play. But you ever had another player come up to you and say, hey, I think did everybody call you Jake or did they call you Peter? Because I know you have a band, Jake Trout and the Flounders, but is that your nickname out in the tour?
Yeah. Peter is my name. Everybody called my father Jake because of Jacobsen. So now in the TV world with NBC, everybody calls me Jake. So it's as long as they call you.
Yeah, right. So have you ever been out there and another player come up to you and say, I'm really nervous, what should I do? Did you tell him a joke or you do something to calm him down?
Yeah, a great story. I was just with Aaron Oberholzer. We worked the drive, chip, and putt together, and Aaron loves to tell this story. I was 50 years old playing in the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. He was 32 and a really good rising young player. He's been sidelined because of injury, so he's now doing TV. You know how injury can rob a lot of players of their talent. Yes. And Aaron's one of them. We were playing the final day, and he's on the edge of getting in the Masters. But I think it's top 8 or top 10 get in the Masters, and he's tied for 8th, 9th, 10th, something like that. And he's nervous. And we get on the 18th tee, and he needs par. We think he needs a par to qualify for his first Masters. And he's really nervous. And he's pacing around, and I can just see it in his face. So there's a big gallery stand there, and I'm the old guy. I'm 50 years old. I'm in because I won the senior U.S. Open, so I'm in. I've had a good career. So I said, hey, everybody, how about if I challenge this young buck to a long drive contest? And everybody goes, yeah, the old guy versus the young guy. And Aaron looks at me like, what are you doing? I'm out of my mind with worry here. And then he finally gets it. He goes, oh, you're trying to relax me. I went, okay, $10, long drive contest. And now the people are into it. Our caddies are into it. He gets a smile, and he's first up because he birdied 17. So he gets up, and he's very relaxed, and he kills this drive, hits a bomb. And, of course, he hits it probably 30 yards by me, the old grandpa. But he hits it in the dead center of the fairway, and he makes a par, hits it up there close, makes a par, and I ended up making a par as well. But to this day, he says, I know why you did that. You were trying to relax me without actually going up and grabbing his face and saying, relax, like the coach might do. Yeah. I had to kind of disarm him and distract him to get him back to having fun. So, I'm 68 years old now. I still play a little bit and hang out with guys, and it's really fun when somebody asks your opinion because when you get to be as old as I am, you've been in every situation.
Well, yeah, you've been in every situation on and off the golf course, right? So that makes it really easy for guys to understand, like, okay, this guy's been through what I want to go through, so I need to talk to him. And it does feel good when young kids come up to you and ask you questions, right? It's like, okay, like what I've done in my career, somebody's noticed, not just the fans, but just, it's almost like being a mentor is I want to carry on what I've learned.
What's interesting about golf is that guys recognize what you've done, and I'm nowhere on the radar, but when you've got guys like Watson and Tiger and Tom Watson and people like that, they may not say it because they're trying to beat you, but they do recognize it. And that's really kind of that silent tip of the cap. When you watched the honorary starters at Augusta, Jack, Gary, and Tom,
yeah,
those guys need to know. Nobody says it. Like a young player, like a Bubba Watson or a Tiger or any other player may not come up and go, "Oh my God, I love you and honor you." But you just know that it's there because again, it's hard for me to put it into words. It's just a silent thing that players respect that.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard for young guys to come up to guys who've been there. Like when I was a rookie, it was really hard for me to go up to older quarterbacks that I've played against and known to just shoot the breeze with them. You know what I mean? And like say, "Hey, I've watched your whole career." Like it was really awkward. It was almost like, "Hey, are they going to come up and talk to me? Because I don't know if I should talk to them." But it's really not like that. Like young guys should understand that you want to talk to them. You want to, introduce yourself. And just like Arnold Palmer did to you.
Yeah. We had a program on tour when I was playing on tour. We had a big brother, little brother program. And we did that specifically for that reason. And over the years, my little brothers have been Casey Martin, Noah Begay, Gary Nicholas, as if Gary Nicholas, Jack's son, needs a mentor on tour, but Jack wasn't playing much anymore.
Well, hey, you know how sons don't want to listen to their dad. I go through that all the time. It doesn't matter who they are or what they've done.
And David Duvall. And what we did is we interacted together. And I guess as I got older, I just said to these young kids, like Kevin Kisner caddied for me one time in a Hootie and the Blowfish Pro-Am, and he gives me crap about that, and I give him crap about it.
Right.
I said, did I pay you? And he goes, "Yeah, you gave me $100 bill, you cheap bastard." And I say, "Yeah, well, you didn't keep my clubs clean, and you never read a putt and all that. But I will, if I know the player well enough, like I know Bubba Watson and Kisner, I will say, look, if there's ever anything you need or a shoulder to not cry on, but you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Someone to bounce ideas off, let me know." So sometimes you have to say it. Of course, I'm more approachable, I think, than a lot of those guys. So it's easy for me to say.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Like, hey, everyone, thank you for listening to Huddle Up with Gus. We appreciate you listening. Go to huddleupwithgus.com, check me out, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We're talking with Peter Jacobsen today. Peter, we were just talking about being a mentor and people coming up to you and like you said, the shoulder to cry on, but it's just a conversation calms people down. And I think that people see you now like on TV a lot, right? Because you're on NBC or on Golf Channel, you do all these things. So people hear you, know you, and it kind of lets you into their lives. And you're not just another guy that played golf. You know what I mean? So I think maybe that way it teaches them that you're more approachable.
Well, I think I've always been fairly approachable. And I think with golf, when I'm doing broadcast, I never make it about me versus some broadcasters. They always want to remind you how good they used to be. Well, I wasn't that good, so it's easy for me to be able
I
to
think
do
you were
that.
great.
But that's the one thing. When you're doing golf broadcast, you're a voice, and you have the knowledge of what's going on. And I'm always trying to bring that to you. Gus, if you're watching a tournament and I'm doing the TV, I'm talking to you about what Bubba's going through or what Scotty Scheffler's going through or the situation on the golf course. What are the opportunities Does a birdie help him more than a bogey hurts him? Things like that. But it is odd when you're in somebody's living room on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But that does make you more approachable, which I like. I like it when I'm in a mall or I'm in a golf tournament and someone comes up and says, "Hey, Peter, let me ask you a question. Did Tiger put a new driver in his bag when he won the Masters?"
Yeah.
No, I don't mind telling him. Yeah.
But watching you on TV, you're like this, right? You're very personable and you're kind and you just have a good personality that a lot of people can connect with. When I watch Faraday, I'm like, oh, if I go up to Faraday, he might rip my head off. So I don't even want to say hi to him. You know what I mean? But funny. I know he's not like that. I know he's a good person, good friend, and is funny. But sometimes when you watch him, he has that little kind of cutting little jibe to him.
I tell you, David Faraday's one of my most favorite people in all of existence. I love working with him. He's hilarious. Just everything that comes out of his mouth is funny. And David, I think, has done more for the United States military than anybody, certainly anybody in our government.
Yeah.
But David hosts these events around the country, and I'm honored when he asks me to participate. He has a foundation called Faraday's Troops First.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
And David is an amazing human being. I love him to death. I love working with him. I wish I could work with him more because he's just hilarious. One of the funniest people I think I've ever met. And if he went up to you, I'll tell him when you go up to him not to bite your head off. I promise.
Yeah. No, but I feel like he's the kind of friend that you got to get your jab in first because they're coming from him.
Oh, he's hilarious. I think I could sit and listen to David Faraday. I've been to see his show live twice, and I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, Gus, or anybody listening right now, if Faraday Live, the live tour comes to you in your town, you've got to go. It's amazing.
Definitely got to go and do that. I appreciate it. I'm going to try and do that. But now you obviously you've been a professional golfer. That takes precedent in all of our lives when you're a professional athlete. But then you've transformed it into so many other things. You have what is it, your production company that you do things with. You're providing for other tours and different events that you're out there doing. Plus, are you still part of the Jacobsen Hardy group, where you're doing the golf? All that stuff.
Yeah, Jim Hardy and I started a golf design company about 15 years ago. And we did quite a few courses, but then, as you know, the economy went this way. So there's not a lot of golf courses being built. There are quite a few being renovated. But
yeah,
I started a production company to create tournaments. And I've done that my whole career. We're in the middle right now of creating a couple of events that I'm really excited about. But one event that I've started, when we talk about diversity and inclusion in the game, the game has always been inherently white, and I don't think there's been anybody oppressed in the game. It's just that a lot of people of color don't start in golf. So I started a program called the Golf Diversity Program, where I have a board of friends of mine, white, black, women, you name it, and we're going to HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, and we're doing seminars right now for the men's and women's golf teams to try to educate and create awareness of the opportunities in the game. Trying to identify the next Tiger Woods or Annika or Nancy Lopez is really difficult. That's like trying to become the next Gus Farrat or the next Tom Brady. That is a very narrow space. Yeah. But getting into the game of golf through player management, event creation, agronomy, working for the tour, working for corporate groups. So we're trying to open their eyes to things, those opportunities. So that's really a fun program that we've started at our company.
Yeah, no, that is a great program. I think through Drive, Chip, and Putt, you can do that because it says anybody, any background, any any ability, you come out and do this. And I think that's wonderful. And that's what needs to happen for the game of golf. But also, the other thing, I mean, you do all these things and then you also start a band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pete, you taught yourself to play guitar, which is amazing.
Yeah. We, years ago, Payne Stewart and Mark Lai and Larry Rinker and I, all tour players, Payne, obviously, we know we lost years ago to that tragic plane accident, but everybody on tour, they fish or they hunt. We didn't do that. We played music. We played guitar. We played piano. And so we put together this band. And we actually did 2 records, which are on iTunes. But what we did is I'm unfortunately the lead singer, and I'm not very good at it. But
I don't know. They have auto-tune now. Like it's like your voice sounds really good on there. I listened to some. I wish
technology was. I wish that was doing that back then.
Right.
But we got the golfer, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame golfer musicians that played golf. We leaned on them. We had Alice Cooper and Huey Lewis, Glenn Fry, Stephen Stills, Graham Nash. These guys we all played golf with, and they were on our record. So if you have an interest to check out Jake Trout and the Flounders on iTunes. For me, it's a great memory of Payne Stewart because Payne plays harmonica, yeah. Mark plays guitar, and I sing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like that you can go and do these things and teach yourself. Like you said, everybody has a hobby. That was your hobby, and you have a passion for music. Like, all the groups that you talked about that you follow and you love, and when you love music, it never goes away.
No, it never does. And music inspires me. In fact, just before this call, I live on YouTube with all these new artists. That's really how I learned how to play guitar and learn how to play these songs. I've got an ear that if I hear a song, I know which chord it's in, so I can start playing the song before the song is over, which is a gift. I wish I was better at it, but it is. It's a passion. Every time I play golf, I have a Bluetooth speaker in my cart and it's blaring. I'm sure I drive people crazy, but it helps to soothe me.
I love that. Like you just put your I was a member at a country club here, and like you couldn't do any of that stuff. Like they wouldn't let you do any of that stuff. But if you go out and play your music, I love that. Like just be yourself, go out and have fun. That's what the game is all about. Like, yeah, if you're at the Masters, you're not doing that stuff, right?
No,
you know what I mean? Like, and then last thing is I wanted to talk about your kind of send off in golf, right? The last round you played at Pebble Beach, like that was you said, okay, this is it. It's time to kind of be done. But you played at Pebble Beach for so long, that had to be crazy emotional for you.
My family would drive down to Pebble from Portland, Oregon, every spring break, and we played at Pebble Beach. We had a big family, 6 of us, mom, dad, four kids. So Pebble's like home for me. It's like my second home still to this day. So my first tournament I ever played in was the AT&T. That was my first event, and I told you I met Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
So when I won there, it was an incredible thing for me emotionally. So as I progressed in the game, I played the Champions Tour, transitioned to doing some TV while I was still playing. But at 68 years old, my body is completely broken down. So I thought, I've got to play one last tournament, and it's going to be Pebble. So because I won there, I'm always in. So I asked Fluff, Mike Cowan, who I won with there, to come caddy for me, and he did. And I was going to play with my longtime partner, Huey Lewis, of Huey Lewis and the News.
Right.
And we were just going to go experience the week. Now, playing with the young kids, I knew I wasn't going to be competitive. I shot 81 the first day at Spyglass, 75, I think, at Pebble, and I birdied 18. So I birdied the last hole at Pebble Beach, and then I had a 74, 75 at Monterey. But it was a dream come true to be able to start my career at Pebble and end my playing career at Pebble Beach. And what's cool is my oldest daughter said, Dad, you played in 6 decades, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2010s and 20s, which That's a cool thing. Yeah, it's just fun to say that.
Yeah, that is amazing. So before I let you go, what would you go back and say to a young Peter Jacobsen and say, like, look at it this way. This is your story. What would you go back and say to him?
Wow, that is a good question. I would say probably just always be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else, because I see a lot of players, as we said earlier, try to come out and they are one way, and then they try to adhere to what they think is the norm of a PGA Tour player.
Yeah.
I would say just be yourself, because if your game's good enough to get you there, it's like in the NFL. If your game's good enough to get you there, keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, learn along the way and try to improve, but never deviate from who you are.
Yeah, because I would feel like being a professional golfer, it's probably almost the same percentages as like being a professional football player. I mean,
it's tough.
Yeah.
As you get up there, you go from junior golf to college golf. And the next thing you know, when you're on tour, that's why we talk about Jack and Arnold, because it's a pretty narrow space up there at the top. There's only room for one guy.
Yeah.
And you better be comfortable with who you are while you work on your game. Learn from a lot of people. Learn from coaches how to throw a better, how to spin it better. Learn how to chip better. Learn how to shoot free throws better. But learn. Keep your mind open, but be yourself.
Well, if you could teach me how to read a green, I would appreciate that, because that's
easy.
One thing. Yeah, all right. For you, it is. You know. If you want to learn how to read a defense, I can help you with that as well.
Well, I would say this: the best tip I could give you on putting: hit the uphill putts harder than the downhill putts.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a gravity. We don't have time to get into that.
Yeah, it's just simple. All right, before we go, tell us where all of our fans can find you, how they can follow you, and where you'd like them to help you out. I mean, you mentioned so many things today. I'd love for our fans to go and check you out whatever you're doing.
Well, I'm on Twitter at Jake Trout. I'm on Instagram Live or Instagram, Peter Jacobsen Sports, Peter Jacobsen Golf. We have a lot of cool things that we post about events coming up, and we have some pretty cool events popping up here within this year and next year. Maybe one with a very famous retired quarterback that you knew that played in the big Metroplex down there in Dallas. We're working on something with Tony, but the golf diversity program, and just having a lot of fun as I get older, and I don't really have to worry about making putts anymore. But just, kindness costs nothing. Yes. Arnold taught me two things. Kindness always helps, and always show gratitude. And thanks to the people who brought you where you are today.
Well, he is a Pittsburgh, kind of Pennsylvania guy like mine. He's Latrobe. I grew up like 45 minutes from where he grew up. So obviously, I know that most Pennsylvanians are kind people. Most, I say most.
Yep.
Some of those mill guys my dad worked with weren't, they were kind of grumpy. Anyway, Peter, I appreciate you joining me on Huddle Up with Gus. And it was so great to meet you, and such a pleasure to have you in the game of golf, and just what a personality, and appreciate all that you do.
Gus, thanks for having me, and look forward to meeting you and maybe teeing it up and maybe showing you how to read some greens.
Well, you'll have to give me some strokes, because my body's beat up as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a safe flight back to Florida.
You got it. All the best.
All the best. Thank you. And everyone, that's another show. What a great, incredible guest we had, Peter Jacobsen. And you can follow him at Jake Trout on Twitter, and check out all of the stuff he's doing. Go back and listen to the show. I appreciate you joining me on Huddle Up with Gus, and check me out wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Until next week, we'll see you again soon.
That's a wrap, sports fans. Thanks for joining in the fun at the 1631 Digital Studios for another action-packed Huddle Up with Gus, featuring 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte. Huddle Up with Gus is proudly produced by 1631 Digital Media and is available on Apple Music.